UFC 271. A lot of debate around the main event. I was going to do a podcast episode, like a full one, and recap the whole card, but I don't have. I got to leave for jiu-jitsu soon. We're just going to stick to breaking down who I think won the main event between Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker for the 185-pound championship. So, a couple things that I want to, talk about some overarching themes in the fight. When it took place at range, Adesanya seemed to get a little bit of the better of the exchanges. He was really working the leg kicks and stuff well. Landed a couple kicks to the body that were effective. I felt like for the most part, Whittaker was defending the high kicks that were coming at him. And for Whittaker, I felt like Whittaker did a good job with the left hand, changing levels and getting to takedowns. I think he should have hunted them a little more aggressively. But one thing that I really liked from Whittaker is that he definitely changed his game plan. If you go watch the first fight, he was lunging, and it's kind of his style, right? Like he still lunges in with the shots. Like that's just how he throws punches, right? Kind of that wide stance, like uses that oblique kick to establish his range, like gets in, like takes these big lunging steps forward. In the first fight, he overextended a lot with his right hand, like threw it hard and he would whiff and it would leave these big openings that Adesanya would capitalize on. He didn't do that so much in this fight. He didn't really throw the right hand a whole lot at all. And you heard Bisping talk about how he was getting left hand heavy, and I agree. I think that he should have mixed it up a little bit. Like I really think he could have found some benefit, by after doubling up on that jab, instead of throwing like a big fucking like cross almost, right? Straighten that right hand out and just throw it straight down the fucking pipe. Like, I think he could have benefited a lot from throwing that out there. And I also think that he could have done a little bit of a better job of working the body of Adesanya. I don't think he did that quite enough, and I think that most of his attacks were to the head or to the legs at some points. And I think he could have attacked the legs a little more too. All right, anyways, let's get into breaking this down like round by round and how I saw the fight. So let's start off with the two most obvious rounds of the fight were rounds 1 to Adesanya and round 5 to Whittaker. Without a doubt. Like, Adesanya came out, started picking Whittaker apart, was really attacking the legs, dropped him. First round goes to Izzy, hands down, not even close. Fifth round goes to Whittaker, hands down, not even close. So, 2, 3, and 4 are the close rounds and the ones that I think we have to take a look at here. So, in round 2, I personally gave this round to Robert Whittaker, right? And also another thing that I kind of want to talk about before we start. When people, I'm reading through the comments and stuff on social media, and most people scored this fight for Izzy, and that's fine. And they all reference like octagon control, right? They're all like, oh, he was pushing him backwards, he had him on the back foot, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. And this is, when I'm giving you guys my opinion of this fight and everything, you have to understand that obviously it's subjective, right? And I personally don't give a fuck about the unified rules of MMA. Why? Because I'm not a judge. And B, I don't believe in it. I believe in the eye test. I believe that you can watch fights and kind of know who won a fight. And you're never going to remove bias from a judge's mind, right? They're always going to have opinions about things that they favor or things that they care about more. So to me, it's like, use the eye test. Who do you think won the fight, right? And another thing that I hate, this whole moniker of you have to beat the champ to be the champ. I don't believe in that either. I think that you should have to, when judges are doing this, they shouldn't be looking at rounds and going, okay, that was a close round. I don't know who to give it to. I'm just going to give it to the champ. No, do some analysis. Think about the things that you people are allowed to value different things. Like if you value defensive grappling strategy and stuff, you're probably going to favor Adesanya in some of these things because he defended well. Personally, I favor offensive grappling, so I'm going to favor Whittaker in certain situations, right? Like when he gets takedowns and shit like that. But I think that this whole beat the champ to be the champ thing, ridiculous. No, you should be looking at it on a round by round basis, analyzing it, and to the best of your knowledge and to the best of your ability saying, okay, if this fight is close, who did the things that I feel like are more important in the fight? And that's what I'm going to try to do to you guys today. Fuck the unified rules of MMA. I don't care about them. I am giving you my personal opinion on who won the fight, and I'm not a goddamn judge, right? So I get a little bit of leeway here. I don't have people's careers on the line. Anyway, first round to Izzy, fifth round to Whittaker. We got to talk about 2, 3, and 4. In round 2, Whittaker definitely was on the back foot, but again, I felt like this is where Whittaker wanted it to take place. And people talking about octagon control, for me personally, I would put more emphasis on octagon control if it felt to me like Robert Whittaker didn't want to be there. But I really felt like he wanted him to come to him, right? He wanted Israel Adesanya to come to him because of the mistakes that he made in the first fight by attacking too aggressively. I felt like he was trying to play a little bit more of a patient game, and it never felt like Adesanya in the second round was really lighting Whittaker up with anything, right? I thought that Whittaker actually, you might argue that Adesanya was a little bit more efficient on the feet, maybe, right, with the strikes and his shot selection and stuff. But I thought that Whittaker worked the left hand really well. He made Adesanya miss a couple times, and it's really where he got his jab going. I think other than the fifth round, probably his left hand was money in the second round. Like, it was really finding home, right? So you've got this close round where I feel like Whittaker landed, although maybe not, like I said, maybe he wasn't as efficient as Adesanya with the shot selection and stuff, but he was landing significant strikes, and the round was very close. I actually think, like, in terms of like the shots that mattered, I thought Whittaker landed the bigger shots with his left hand. He was snapping the head back. He found the hook a couple times. And on top of that, again, you have a really close round. He got the takedown, stemming off that oblique kick where he got in on the hips, drove Izzy across the octagon, right? And it's not like Izzy popped right up from that or got a whizzer and was able to get up. No, Whittaker got him against the cage, turned his hips over, and forced Israel Adesanya to get back up from there, and then was working double unders up against the cage a little bit and stuff. And again, in a close-ass fight where the striking is really close, I'm going to favor the guy who usually implements offensive grappling. And it's not because, like, I know people say, like, oh, what did he do with it? Like, what did he do with it? He didn't do anything with the takedown. Israel defended it. And it's like, yeah, but he still got taken down. And in a close-ass fight where I actually feel like in the second round, Whittaker was landing, like I said, a little bit of the better shots, a little bit of the more significant shots with his left hand, snapping the head back, etc. When it's close like that, to me, that's very significant because you have, whether Adesanya defends it or not, at some point, Whittaker dictated the direction of the fight with that takedown, right? He put it in a place where Israel Adesanya did not want to be and forced him onto the defensive, right? That's, you know what I mean? People are talking about like, oh, we had him like octagon control. Well, what about this, right? And again, I guess this is why like the octagon control thing, this is kind of where it comes more into play, and maybe it'll make a little more sense if I explain it this way. Like, Adesanya definitely did not want to be on the ground, and he definitely did not want to be in wrestling exchanges with Robert Whittaker, right? To me, it didn't feel like Whittaker minded being on the back foot, right? If he was like getting dotted up significantly and stuff, and Israel was really picking him apart in this round and really lighting him up, and Whittaker gets this takedown, then yeah, give it to Adesanya all day. I favor damage over everything, guys. Over everything. Damage over everything, right? Like, if you're going to fucking, like, if you're fucking someone up and they take you down and they pop back up like Izzy did and then start really going to work on the feet, fine. But this second round was close, and you can't deny that the striking was close. And to me, that takedown was the most significant moment of that round, right? All else considered. Like I said, if Adesanya is lighting Whittaker up after he defends the takedown, then yeah, it goes to Adesanya all day. But when it's close like this, I'm going to favor the person who changed the direction of the fight. Now, the third round. I thought the third round went to Adesanya. I thought Izzy did a better job of picking him apart. He defended a takedown nicely, right? He was landing some combinations, working the legs again. Izzy worked the legs well all through the fight. He was working the legs. I think towards the fifth round, at the end of the fourth, Whittaker kind of got a feel for sliding out of the way of them, but that's like 20 minutes of getting your legs chewed up. So I felt like Izzy won the third round, right? The only real moment where I feel like, again, and this is kind of, I hope that I'm being like consistent in what I'm saying here. In the third round, it felt to me like Izzy was just controlling things, picking him apart, and Whittaker was like kind of frustrated with the striking. He wasn't finding home with the left hand as often. He was missing on things. Adesanya was tagging him, landing some body kicks, etc., right? So the only real moment of success I felt like Whittaker really had was when Adesanya threw that kick and Whittaker got under it and took him down. But again, Adesanya popped right back up and then started winning the exchanges on the feet. Okay? So again, like I said, if you're clearly, and I feel like Adesanya was clearly winning in the third, if you're clearly winning those exchanges on the feet and you get a takedown like that and pop back, and also Adesanya returned to his feet more quickly in the third round with this takedown than he did in the second, and got out, like, was able to return to where he wanted the fight to be. He didn't just get taken down in the second round. Like I said, he got his hips turned over, and then he had to defend up against the cage, like Whittaker was engaging in the clinch, etc. The third round, though, Izzy controlled the striking. Yes, Whittaker got a takedown, but Izzy did enough on the feet to me to give him the round, right? You guys see what I'm saying? Like in the second round, I don't think Izzy did enough to show me that he like really won that round decisively. So to me, if it's close like that, and I feel like Whittaker did good work with the left hand and got a takedown, it goes to Whittaker for me. I actually kind of thought the second round was pretty obvious, especially after watching it back. 1 for Izzy, 2 for Whittaker, 3 for Izzy so far, right? This fourth round is, in my opinion, the hardest to score. So I really felt like Israel Adesanya did do a good job of controlling the striking exchanges for the most part. As a jiu-jitsu, like if you guys watch my breakdowns, you guys know that I favor grappling and stuff, right? Like I do breakdowns on these submissions and stuff. Like I'll probably put some out for maybe like Kyler Phillips, except like Douglas Silva de Andrade maybe, right? Like I'm going to favor grappling. And it's because I think it allows you to dictate the direction and it allows you to dictate the pace where like you're changing where the fight is taking place, right? This fourth round was close. Like I think Adesanya had a slight edge on the feet. But you got to remember, like, even moments like where Whittaker would, like, there was a moment later in the fourth round where Whittaker went to change levels and hit him with a nice right uppercut. He was still landing the left hand once in a while. I think Adesanya landed a heavy leg kick. Like, I do think that Adesanya edged it out just barely on the feet in the fourth round. But the deciding moment for me was when Whittaker took his back. He got a beautiful takedown, got around to the back, and Adesanya didn't fight the hand. Like, Whittaker climbed up and was on his back, 2 hooks in, fighting for a choke. I don't care what, other than the first round when Adesanya dropped him, I don't care what anybody says. Having somebody on your back is the worst, like the worst position to be in all of combat sports. That was as close to the fight ending when Rob's digging his fucking, like the palm of his hand across the chin, trying to fight for the chokes and stuff. That was as close to because it can end like that. You guys got to understand, like, yes, Israel Adesanya defended it well. Got one of the hands, peeled it off, like peeled Rob off, etc. But that was as close to the fight ending as at any other point in the bout. Other than the first round when Adesanya dropped him, maybe. And it is like, again, maybe Adesanya had a slight edge in the fourth round, but I still felt like Rob was doing good work. I felt like it was really tight. And the fact that he got that takedown and got to his back, to me, is super significant. Because again, guys, you can say, if you're a guy who, I have no problem with people giving this round to Adesanya. I really don't. Like, if you're a guy who favors defense stuff, like if you're a guy who really values striking, like, and I do, I think striking super important. And you're also defensive minded in terms of grappling and stuff. Like, if you favor guys who are like defending well, then yeah, sure, give it to Izzy. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with either guy. I don't have a dog in this goddamn fight. I really don't care who won. I like both guys. I'm not like an Izzy hater. I wasn't rooting for one guy or the other coming into it. I just wanted to see what the fuck happened. And I'm trying to give you guys my honest opinion about who won. But for me personally, when things like this are close, I'm going to favor the guy implementing offense. And when Rob was on his back, I know Izzy defended it, but it only takes one fucking slip under the chin and that fight is over. In the fourth round, Robert Whittaker, being on his back like he was as close to ending the fight as either fighter was at any point during the bout. Like I said, having someone on your back and yes, Izzy defended it well, but he still let him get there. Do you think he wanted Robert Whittaker on his back? Absolutely not. And again, it felt like Whittaker was comfortable moving backwards and everything, so I don't put a ton of emphasis necessarily on the control in this specific fight, on the octagon control alone, right? Because I felt like Whittaker was comfortable fighting off the back foot. And there was a moment, maybe in the second, I can't remember what round, I think in the second, where Adesanya was standing in the center of the octagon, and Rob literally just kept his back against the cage until Israel Adesanya walked forward, which was also a tell to me, like, okay, there's little things that are like, he's trying to be patient, he wants him to come to me. So I gave the fourth round to Robert Whittaker, although it was close. And the fifth round went to Whittaker pretty clearly. right? So for me, I had this fight 48-47 Robert Whittaker. I don't know. Like I said, if the striking's that close, I'm going to favor the guy who goes into offensive grappling sequences because they're changing the direction of the fight. And yes, you can argue that Israel defended well, but he never wanted Rob on his back. Taking someone's back is hard to do. And when you do that, and you start threatening with the strangles and stuff, and you got the takedown that led to it, in the center of the octagon, like a well-timed takedown, got in on the hips, I'm going to lean towards that. That's my personal opinion. Again, I don't have any problem with anyone giving this. I didn't think this fight was robbery by any stretch of the imagination. I thought it was very close. I had no problem with Izzy winning when he won. I was like, yeah. The thing that bothers me is the beat the champ to be the champ thing. I hate that. I don't think that if a round is close, you just give it to the champ by default. I think you're going to be subjective, like I said. You're going to have opinions about things that people don't agree with, but you should use your knowledge and the things that you value to make a decision about who won this round. And for me personally, offensive grappling is important when things are close. Like I said, in the third round, when the striking wasn't as close, I felt like Adesanya had a really firm grasp on things in the third round, and Rob gets that takedown, and Israel springs back up, and he sprung back up more quickly too. Yeah, I have no problem giving that round to Adesanya. But in rounds 2 and 4, when things are really close, and I feel like it's ooh, I don't really know, I'm usually going to favor the guy who goes for the grappling and who's initiating the grappling sequences, because to me, it's more important to force the other person to defend than how well they defend, right? Like I said, if you're defensive minded and you think that it's more important that Adesanya defended the fact that Whittaker got to his back, okay, fine. But for me personally, I value the fact that Whittaker was able to get there and made Adesanya defend. So again, just my personal opinion. I had it 48-47 for Whittaker, but I have absolutely no problem with the decision. So, and I understand a lot of people are going to be like, oh, he was doing this, and you're going to favor the octagon control maybe a little bit more than I did, and because you're going to say, oh, he had him backing up. But to me personally, the reason I don't put a lot of credence, I guess, into that specifically for this specific fight is just because I felt like Whittaker didn't mind being there. If I felt like Adesanya was forcing him there, I would put a lot more emphasis on it, because it's again, we were talking about the grappling stuff, Adesanya didn't want Whittaker on his back or didn't want him taking him down. If I felt like Whittaker didn't want to be backing up, then yeah, that's important, right? But all these fights are different, and that's why I have a problem with using the unified rules of MMA as the strict criteria for stuff, because if you do that, Dominic Cruz, if everything else is even, Dominic Cruz is going to lose every fight. And how do you judge octagon control, right? Because he's always moving backwards and stuff and slipping out of the way of things, and it would appear as if he's running, but he's implementing his game plan. And if he's making guys miss and stuff and making them come to him, isn't that what he wants to do? I hope I'm kind of making sense and laying this out. But anyway, that's how I scored the fight. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you guys are going to argue in the comments, just fucking be nice about it. I'm reading so much fucking shit online where people are calling everyone clowns, as if you guys have some dog in this fight, or you're an MMA expert. I'm not a fucking MMA. I'm giving you my honest opinion. I'm a fan, right? I practice a little bit of jiu-jitsu here and there. I don't know. It's not that important. It's, the judges have a really important job, but for us, we're just debating. All I'm saying is just keep it civil. Everybody's going to have their own opinion, the things that they value. Try to be clear and concise about your arguments. Don't be dickheads to each other and calling each other fucking names and shit, whatever. Anyway, I was going to wrap this one up for me, guys. If you enjoyed, please click the subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and definitely let me know what you thought of the fights in the comments. So yeah, guys, I'll catch you later. Thank you again for tuning in. Bye-bye.